This is just a short video on rear sprocket replacement, which sounds a bit Captain Obvious probably, but there's a couple of little things that I was going to point out. When I'm tightening the sprockets up, I use this little bit, 8mm bit, and my bit set, put it in the vise. It's well butchered. Drop the sprocket carrier on top, drop the sprocket on. Just use some Loctite. This is the Worth Blue Loctite, which sort of equates to Loctite 242, I think. Medium strength stuff. Put some in the nuts and on the threads. Run the nuts down a bit, not tight. I don't want to tighten these up at all yet. So the important info when you're torquing them up, do these to 45 Newton meters, but this is a 97 ST2 and the nuts are 15mm hex. Up until maybe during the 94 production year, I don't know if it's a cut-off between 93 and 94 or sometime there, earlier than, we'll say 94, the nuts were 14mm. And the difference is in the studs. These studs here that go from the push drive, these studs screw into the sprocket carrier, this bit underneath, and the nuts tighten up. But when you're tightening up the nuts on the sprocket, use a tyre lever. I put it around a push drive pin and pull against that to make sure the pin is screwed fully into the carrier. The difference between the bikes with the 15mm nuts and the bikes with the 14mm nuts is that on the 14mm nut bikes, the pin screws in the opposite direction. So when you're tightening the nuts up, you put the tyre lever in here, that way, and you twist it clockwise, which is the same direction as you tighten the nuts. So it's a little bit more confusing. But it's just something to be aware of, and sometimes when I do this, like it didn't move much, you might get half a turn or a full turn of rotation just in these studs that just aren't into the sprocket carrier. If the stud's not tight in the sprocket carrier, even though the nut's tight, the stud may still move later on. And it's not such a big deal in the bikes with 15mm nuts. It was never really an issue. But when I bought my 89 851, one of the things with that bike being very original is that it had a groove machined in the inside of the swing arm where the sprocket nuts had come off and then ground the swing arm away. And that's really common on early 851s. So it's really important just to make sure that the studs or the pins are tight in the sprocket carrier, and then you torque the nut up. And on the ones with the 15mm hex, you pull against, and the ones with the 14mm hex, you have to push the same way till they're tight and you tighten the nut up. So do that, and then 45 Newton meters. You get a little bit of movement out of them. It's just one of those things that's well worth doing. Bit of movement in that one. And that way I'm confident that these pins are tight in the carrier and the nuts are tight. And that's how I do rear sprockets up.